Okay, so I'm just sitting here in the backyard in beautiful Southern California on the 23rd of February. It's a gorgeous sunny day. It's going to be almost uncomfortably warm today. So I wanted to close the loop on a story I had started back in mid-December. I grabbed a little bit of the video that I had posted then about trying to track down a mysterious clunk that started in the Hummer H3. It seemed to result when we were driving in Anza Borrego, driving over some wash, Fish Creek wash, some kind of washboarding in the wash, and it really shook the truck pretty badly, started making a disturbing noise. So I described that in the video. The reason I'm posting it here is to illustrate that even though I put a GoPro under the truck and drove around, I was pretty much completely unsuccessful in diagnosing what the clunk was. So I'm going to show some still photos. I've had the clunk repaired now. And what it was a failure of the leaf spring and the bushing on the driver's side front hanger. It's a known problem with Hummer H3s on either side, driver or passenger, and people have had some pretty catastrophic failures. There's quite a few videos out there about this. Now, I thought I had eliminated that as a possibility, and you'll see that in the videos and the photographs, why it was fairly hard to nail down that this was the problem. Finally, what had happened is I had my brakes repaired, and obviously they had the thing up on a lift with the axle dangling. They didn't notice the problem either. And as I lay there looking around, because I still, after lots of effort and lots of help from a Facebook user group for Hummer H3s, investigating theories of what could cause this annoying clunk, finally I'm lying there after the brake job, and I just finally noticed that where the spring was positioned on the driver's side at the spring hanger seemed like a fraction of an inch different than the passenger side. So I went back there, shoved my hand in there, felt a loose rubber bushing and some loose metal. And that's when I realized the clunk that was still remaining. I did fix a few other clunks, like a loose sway bar link. But ultimately, the real problem all along had been that the spring hanger on the driver's side, it was just a little bit of metal from the leaf spring that was left in contact with the bolt. So when I put just the right stress on the car, the spring shifted. That was the clunk that I was hearing. I was never going to figure that out with the GoPro by listening. It was really more luck than anything. I knew about this with Hummers. I mean, I knew it was an issue. But I was very, very surprised that it could have happened to my truck in a way that wasn't clearly visually evident. The other guys who've had this failure, well, it's just a massive failure, and all of a sudden their axle's dangling. Mine didn't fail that way. So if you drive a Hummer H3, you may want to inspect your springs the same way I did. I'm going to spend a little time here on a Sunday morning, just messing around here in the garage with the GoPro. I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at the GoPro mounts, setting up the GoPro underneath our Hummer H3. So a couple weeks ago, coming out of Anza Borrego and Fish Creek Wash, I was driving over a lot of washboard. Now I did have the tires aired down, but again, my tires are low rated E and they're non-bead locks. So I don't get quite as much cushion, say, as I would out of a load rate C tire. And if I went all the way down to like 12 or 13 PSI, which I didn't that day because it seemed fine to me. But the rattle eventually seemed to shake something loose. So by the time we were leaving, there was an uncomfortable noise coming from the back of the truck. So when we got out of the trail, I climbed underneath when we were airing up, and I just couldn't find anything. And since then, I don't hear or see anything. I've been under the truck multiple times. But when I take a fairly hard left or right turn, sometimes we hear a clunk. Kathy will be in the truck and she'll hear it as well. So the thought, joking around with coworkers, most of whom are engineers, so one made the joke, well, why don't you just hang underneath your truck while your wife drives? So I thought, I don't think you have my best interests in heart. But then we joked and I thought, well, you know, I have all these GoPro mounts that I almost never use, so why don't I do that? So that's the mission here this morning, is to take a couple of the GoPro mounts, put the GoPro underneath the Hummer, drive around some tight turns, just here on asphalt, just going around roundabouts and things like that. See if I can reproduce the clunk and get any kind of insight. if you heard anything on those videos. I certainly did not. So it is what it is, but that's where I left things off. I watched those videos over and over, could not see anything wrong with that spring. So in this case, I'm just showing you that video where I was looking at the spring. But now I'll paste in here some of the still photos where you can see how the front spring hanger bushing and the spring itself failed. Again, you can't get a super good view in there. These are just some stills I took with my iPhone, some of them in the parking lot at work. You know, I kept walking around trying to, what on earth did I feel there? What did I see? And then, you know, it became obvious I needed to replace the 2 leaf springs. Now, in order, and that's 2 of them, you know, well, common sense, you know, at this point, it's a 17-year-old truck with almost 200,000 miles on it. So if I'm going to replace a spring, I'm going to replace them both. And like most of us, I upgrade. So again, a super helpful H3 forum on Facebook. Got a lot of good advice from experienced Hummer owners who said, if you can still track them down, get a pair of the Old Man Emu ARB rear leaf springs, which is what I did. Now, also showing the pictures here. Once I put the springs in, now I have a kind of a fun next question. The springs are right a bit higher, and guys had warned me that was the case. So the way we do it on the Hummer is you measure from like the H on the wheel cover, which is pretty much your center hub, to the fender lip. Now my fronts were about 21.5. My rears were similar, that's inches that is, and now they're at like 24. So visually you can see the stance of the truck isn't bad, but the back end is definitely about 1.5 inches, maybe up to 2.5 inches higher than it used to be. Which is not a bad thing. Now I have the question of, do I adjust my front torsion bars to match? And then who knows, one day maybe put 35s on there, because you can run 35s on a Hummer stock. And if you if you tighten up your front torsion bars, raise it a bit, or do any of this type of work in the back, and these Old Man Emu springs effectively are about a 2-inch lift in the back, then you can very easily run 35s. But I got a lot of life in my tires, and I'm more of an overlander than a rock crawler, but who knows? I think 35s might be in the future of this truck. Oh, and I should also say, of course, why don't you just go crazy? If it's so easy, you know, why don't you just adjust the front torsion bars? Well, of course, because it changes the angle of the CV joints and the independent front suspension, and that's typically what's going to fail. So if I run the Hummer with 35s, you know, turn my wheels tightly, crawling over rocks, that's when one day, you know, you'll hear the noise crunch, and that's what I would rather avoid. That's why I'm not eager to run out and put 35s on the truck. That, and of course the fact that I'm a cheapskate and I want to get the life out of my tires. So now I've had a chance to drive the truck just a little bit since the new springs were installed, and the good news is the telltale clunk, that really irritating and concerning noise I kept having to hear, is gone. And the truck rides nicely. Some thought maybe it'll ride a little stiffer. If it does, I haven't noticed it. So I'm very pleased with the result. Highly recommend the Old Man Emu springs. JBM Off-Road in Norco, California did the work for me. Again, I'm out here in California without my tools, so there's only so much I can do on my own. But very happy with the results, and no more clunk.